Asha Sharma dropped the first bomb in Bethesda's Fallout world. Thousands of layoffs and customer support leaving some of the countries are only part of the changes that are now hitting Microsoft. This may be Microsoft's one and only chance to edge out Sony, because Sony has recently made several critically negative and anti-consumer decisions. As gamers, it is worth closely watching what is happening at Microsoft and Bethesda, because changes are coming. The days when we could naively believe every company are long gone. The time has come to be an informed customer. What does it mean for one of my favorite gaming universes, and what is Microsoft still lacking to beat PlayStation? We will talk about all of that in this video. Enjoy watching. If you saw my previous videos about Bethesda, then you probably know that I am one of these people who like Todd Howard's lies. I like the tearful story of Redguard's failure despite huge ambitions, and I even spent dozens of hours in Fallout 76. You could imagine that Phil Spencer was a bit like me. He would come to Todd from time to time, ask for updates, and Todd would sell him his usual talk. Whether about Fallout 76, how they have big plans and updates, or about Starfield, or which they are also making content, or finally about the Elder Scrolls 6, about which you should not ask too many questions or Todd will shut you up. And that talk worked for years, and Todd happily made his new game, forgetting that this industry is a business. You really cannot run a company whose last fairly good and sensible game came out 11 years ago. Unless you consider Fallout 76 or Starfield to be good products, then I don't really know how to help you. That utopian world worked for many years, and players complained about the already outdated engine and suggested that if Bethesda does not want to deal with Fallout, then maybe they should give it to someone else who will be able to make the next game. Of course, Todd was negative about that. After all, Fallout is one of his children. But then Phil stepped down from the director's chair and Asha Sharma took his place. So you understand who this person is. She does not come from the gaming industry, but from the AI department, where everything comes down to optimization. On top of that, internet users are currently making fun of her, saying someone locked her in a basement with a tweeter turned on, because she reads everything and is active almost all the time under fans' posts. A bit like Twitch's CEO Dan Clancy when some e-girl starts her stream. That is why she quickly sorted out the company's structure and the subcontractors making games, and almost 5,000 people were laid off. These layoffs have two sides, the good and the bad. Let us start with the bad one. There was a drama on Twitter where one guy lost access to about 200 games on his Microsoft account, could not contact support, and only after a viral drama on social media did Microsoft graciously decide to help him. With layoffs on this scale, we can safely assume that this situation will not improve. Companies love to create an impression of closeness with the customer while making contact as difficult as possible. Even the Microsoft and Bethesda departments outside of the US got hit. Dawid Kosiński posted information on Twitter that the people who worked in Poland, for example, were laid off, which later was confirmed to be true. It seems that now all problems will go to the main headquarters, which is not very good news because different cultures have different players. But hey, there might be also good sides to these layoffs, especially that one decision from Asha. Through these layoffs, she aims to flatten the hierarchy of managers. Until now, their company could have up to 14 layers. That means that for information from an ordinary programmer to reach the very top, it had to pass through 14 different people. Making decisions in such environment is a nightmare, which is why Asha said stop. From now on, there will be a maximum of 5 layers, and in some departments down to 3. This will significantly refresh Microsoft's structures and speed up decision making, because before information is filtered through 14 people, each with a different personality, it may turn out to be completely watered down and bland. It turns out that their company was full of managers who were managing themselves just fine, probably creating tons of meetings, unnecessary data flows that brought nothing to game production except justifying their salaries. I checked this information for other publishers, and for example, CD Projekt Red operates with 5 layers, and studios like Larian operate on 3 to preserve the feeling of a small studio. So let's just say that Microsoft is finally trying to join the civilized part of the industry. After Phil left, Asha presumably came to Bethesda to talk with Todd Howard about Fallout, fueled by hundreds of tweets and thousands of opinions like some data model. Hey, maybe she even watched the show. Todd as always fired up his talk, explaining that everything with Fallout is wonderful. They are just doing more than ever. Just look at the great content they are putting out for 76. What an excellent update they released for the 4th one, and how hard they are working on Elder Scrolls 6. After which they will immediately begin to work on a new Fallout. But in business, no one will wait for Mr. Bethesda to finally get himself together, so Asha took the Fallout brand and gave it to Obsidian. The same one to which Bethesda, ever since New Vegas, did not want to allow making making Fallout. And now, after many years, Obsidian will finally get a chance to create Fallout New Vegas 2. Bethesda, meanwhile, will work on their own Fallout projects, which we will talk about later. So a kind of rivalry is forming inside Microsoft, where two companies will make a game for one universe, and then the one that performs better will have a chance to decide the fate of the brand in the coming years. Honestly, Obsidian making Fallout does not make me that optimistic, because recently they made two huge flops, namely Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2. Each of them disappointing in its own unique way, so the question is whether they will manage to deliver a quality product with Fallout. Josh Sawyer and Tim Kaine are on board with this project, so the creator of Fallout New Vegas and the creator of original Fallout. But I have not followed their lives, and I don't know where maybe they have drifted in a certain direction, and whether New Vegas 2 will not turn out to be another HR correct story that gets buried somewhere in the Game Pass. It would be really nice to get a proper Fallout from people who are actually passionate about this world. Because even if the project fails, and even if it does not meet expectations, player will appreciate a game in which you can see being faithful to the most iconic parts. Interesting world exploration, a story in which you feel that your actions matter, and a story that does not treat you like an idiot. So basically nothing that Bethesda did with their Fallout 4. Yes, I know these are very big demands for the modern industry. Some time ago there were even leaks that one of the designers from Obsidian proposed moving the Fallout to New Orleans. Can you imagine that? Radioactive alligators? As I mentioned, at the same time Bethesda also retained the right to another part of Fallout and even issued a statement after losing exclusivity to the brand. Bethesda's statement is the usual PR talk under the slogan "everything is fine here." First, of course, they mention how much they love making games. I mean, yeah, sure, it's your job. And what a wonderful brand Starfield is. Basically, they split Starfield and Fallout 76 because together it would look too cringe. Then, in a roundabout way, they note that they allow players to fix their own unfinished garbage games, and finally they move on to Fallout topic. In the end, we get confirmation that, besides working on Fallout 76, they are also actively working on remasters of Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Exactly what players suspected, but they are moving at a snail's pace, since they missed as many as 2 seasons of their own show, when that would have been the perfect moment to release those remasters. They also mentioned Fallout 5, which is in pre-production, but here I would not be too optimistic. It looks to me like the situation where you go to your mom at night because you need a drawing board and a dried leaves for tomorrow. Todd probably wanted to start production of Fallout 5 only after The Elder Scrolls launched, but maybe Asha gave him an ultimatum. Either you start now, or we give the entire brand to Obsidian. Perhaps for the first time in many years, Bethesda feels a real threat. If New Vegas 2 lands with passionate people and Fallout 5 does not learn from the mistakes of the fourth one, their situation could get very complicated. We can only hope that Todd will do everything to prevent that, and that we will get 3 incredible games: The Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5 and Fallout New Vegas 2. Yes, sometimes I like to dream. And for Xbox to finally take the lead in console war, they would have to take a series of very well thought out steps. It would definitely be worth fueling this atmosphere of competition between Bethesda and Obsidian. Let both companies try to release the best possible game and let players be the judges. On top of that, Arcane Studios should get one more chance and make Prey 2. Prey 1 is one of these games that only got appreciated when it was already too late. It was basically dead, and because of that it never got a sequel. Considering how many videos were made analyzing the story, if they managed to repeat that success, it would be a huge PR plus. And finally, I would drop those idiotic representation and progressiveness points that developers are supposedly required to follow. And something might be happening in that matter, because I checked one profile on LinkedIn of a guy that I talked about before. His name is Matt Hansen, and he was an art director working on Avowed in Obsidian. You know, it was that guy that was happy to give his place to a person of color because there is too many white people. So apparently he managed to do that because this month he got fired. Xbox is going through a personal blaze with the drastic decisions under Asha Sharma leadership. Bethesda having to give up their rights to Fallout, massive layoffs, everything indicates that it's getting harder and harder for game companies to stay afloat. Don't get me wrong, it's all their fault. They decided to boost budgets, they decided to Hollywoodize games, just let them burn. Even if a company seemingly does something good, it still reeks of corporate word salad. Maybe that's because our trust as gamers has been undermined so many times that it's hard to have any hope. Fortunately, as always, we will vote with our wallets and be able to compare whether Fallout 5 or New Vegas will be worth our time. Although now modern audience absolutely hates that. When another woke slope fails because we voted with our wallets and then they have to desperately figure out some explanation to tell us why it's not true. And who do you trust more, Bethesda and the silver-tongued Todd Howard, or Obsidian and the original crew? As always, comments are yours and likes are mine, so leave one under my video and I will see you in the next one. Be sure to check the link in my description. Bye bye.